that, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll call to order the October 23rd meeting of the Select Board. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. Feels like it's been a while since we all been together. Do we have manifests there?
There's 2 of each.
Those.
So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the manifests from 10/9/2017 and 10/23/2017, and the payroll of 10/10/2017 and 10/24/2017.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay. So Chris, this was an appointment, but it's not now?
We don't think so,
Okay.
but we don't know for certain.
What's that?
We're gonna start some grass, so maybe.
Oh, okay. Okay, we've got minutes of 9:25.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 25th, 2017 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One abstain. Because I know you like that, Don. Alrighty, boards and committees. Charlene, anything going on with planning?
We've got a meeting on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. It's a public hearing on impact fees.
Okay. No other, and has budget committee met?
Yes,
Did you review?
I reviewed this Q3 with them last week.
Yep.
I think they're about to get the first crack at the school budget
Okay,
in a couple of weeks, and then we're right behind them.
okay. Did they have any comments on the Q3 numbers?
A couple of little questions, nothing significant, really.
Okay.
We're right on tight
Yeah.
at the end of the quarter, so no worries.
Okay,
Not a lot of breathing room either.
okay. Well, so far the weather's in our favor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, town administrator report.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna send you a bunch of new hire rate sheets and a couple of merit increase things there, just to run through all the new people. I don't remember last time I checked in with you on those subjects. New firefighter EMTs, Jeremy Lavoie and Megan Dion. Jeremy started probably 6 weeks ago. Megan last week.
Okay.
And they're up and running and off to a good start. I think I mentioned Nick Deskovich, the new police officer from who came to us from Colebrook.
Yep.
Nick's on board, he's probably got 3 weeks in by now. New building inspector, Russ Buchholz, just started last week. And I sent you a note about how we're doing that.
Yeah.
Dennis Pelletier, who's been helping us on a per diem basis, is also going to stay on a permanent part-time basis. We have 2 part-time folks in the building inspector role now. I think that's everybody. Let's see, what else do we have?
So we, on those,
Yep.
on both of those, where are we as far as like fully staffed? Or,
Yeah, police is fully staffed, fire is fully staffed, recycling center is fully staffed, this building is fully staffed. We have not been in that position in a long time. We have
Yeah.
one hole right now.
Right.
Library set, as far as I know, and it's everybody, yeah.
good deal,
Yeah, it's a pleasant change.
good.
Let's see here. Big Halloween activities this weekend. The library, the school, and our rec department finally all got on the same page and have stacked their events, 1, 2, 3 on Saturday. So you can spend the day with Halloween if you want. They've always been kind of a hodgepodge of different things, and now they're all coordinating it, and I can't imagine playing Halloween all day, but
What's
suspect they will.
the school doing?
the trunk or treat
Trunk or treat?
thing, yep. And here we have Halloween party, which includes some kind of haunted walk,
Yep,
and other games and things. If you come in this week, you'll see the place littered with decorations and games and things. And the library has something, I can't remember what it is. Library starts in the late morning, we're in the middle of the afternoon, and trunk or treat's in the early evening.
okay.
So,
Yeah, I came up, late Friday afternoon to sign checks, and Courtney and a couple of her helpers were in the back getting ready for the event.
Yes,
which is
it's,
great.
yeah, it's gonna be quite the production, I think.
Yep, that's good, hope it goes well.
There was the regular Halloween trick or treat being allowed in addition to?
Yes, that is Sunday night.
Okay.
We're underway with the switch in banks to TD Bank for all of our checking and all that stuff. You heard from the treasurer on that. That's underway. They were working on that transition today. The second and third phases of the Maple Ridge Road construction are underway. They're mobilizing today, I believe. They're cutting trees and stumps right now. We had a pre-construction meeting today with our engineers, and Severino is going to be doing most of the work. We are expecting moderate to heavy truck traffic on Mitchell and Friar Tuck, and later on some on Oak Ridge and Case and Mill Pond as they get to the site from 125 mostly. Nothing's really changed in the plan. It's looks pretty straightforward. No blasting this time, so maybe a little easier. It's about 2,000 feet of road to be constructed. They're gonna have most of it done this fall, finish it up in the spring. I would expect they'd start selling house lots in the spring on both the, the project was broken up into 3 phases. The first phase is off Oak Ridge. The second phase is off Friar Tuck, and the third phase connects the 2 in the middle,
Yeah.
if you remember all that. So
Yeah.
it'll all be done and base coat paved by, I think, April by their schedule. So
How's Lakeview coming along?
Lakeview is waiting to be graded right now. Most of the real violent stuff is done. No horrific challenges. The intersection of Lookout Point looks a little bit different, looks a little cleaner. But other than that, it's been pretty smooth.
Good. When do they anticipate having that done?
I didn't hear from them since late last week about their grading and paving schedule. I would expect they would pave right after grading rather than letting it sit, so it may be as soon as late this week. So if I hear anything from them, I will let the neighborhood know. But Also, so far, so good there.
Good.
We dinged up one of our cruisers a couple weeks ago. One of our officers turning around on Route 4 to pursue something, turned and got hit. Looks like probably $5,000 worth of damage or so to the cruiser. Insurance companies involved, and
Any other car?
other car, nothing wrong, no injuries. So that's that. Department heads are getting their budget stuff in to me. You'll see the first go at it at your next meeting in 2 weeks. We've got, in terms of unusual items, fire department's proposing engine to replace engine 3 to be paid for by the capital reserve fund. Fire department's breathing apparatus is coming up for replacement next year and the year after. We've had that on the radar for a long time. We may need to do something around a pickup or a heavy duty or a 1-ton truck for the highway department. We're kind of in limbo or transition there, so I'm not sure where to propose that. Let's see, what else is big ticket so far? I think that's it. Got a little bit of good news in that our health insurance premium rates are gonna go down next year.
Oh,
Which rates are that?
The health insurance,
Health insurance.
yeah. And we've made the final payment on the renovation bond for this building. So there's a little bit of coming off before we get into new things. It's too early to give you any numbers, but.
what's driving health insurance coming down?
Well, we haven't got anything in writing. I did have a conversation with one of our reps over there. It's a few things. They've consolidated the plans. There's not as many options. The plan that our folks are on is still in place, so, and a couple of years ago, they told us this consolidation was coming, and we got into a channel that wouldn't have to be monkeyed with, so that's good for us. But they've done a lot with getting employees involved in choosing treatment locations and things. You know, I don't know if your employers do this, but
Yeah, go to this one, you get $100.
right, go to this one. We'll kick back some of the savings to you. That's been pretty successful, and they're also. I think they've consolidated a lot with the prescription plans, so there's not as many balls in the air there. So that's the
Good.
informal version. We're expecting our head count on insurance to remain the same next year. So we'll have, depending on the mix of singles, couples, families, our bottom line cost should be going down. Anything not going up is good in that world.
Yeah, exactly.
Compared to most, but ours looks like it's going to go down. So.
Good.
Let's see, what else? I sent you, since we last met, I sent you the results of the traffic counts and some thoughts on where to go from here. And the question to you is, how do you want to discuss that? Do you want to do anything independent of the budget process, or do you want to have another public? We had this spring we had a bunch of folks turn out, and we said, all right, we're going to work on these things and talk about it again. So
Yep.
How do you want to structure that, and when is the question to you?
Anybody have thoughts?
I think you're hearing from people. I know some of you are hearing from people about prospective plans, so I don't know if you or just wishes, anyway.
So I'll just throw out there personally, I think it should just be part of the budget discussion and CIP discussion.
I'm just wondering if we should, I guess folks can come anytime they want, but I'm just wondering if to circle back to, did we say that we would circle back or get an update to those folks?
I think we did in that session. We said, we're not going to decide anything right now. We heard you, but we're going to talk about it again. And I know who some of them are, and I've been collecting contact information for people that are particularly vocal. But
I just don't think we can have an informed discussion with them until we figure it, until we look at the budget.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we'd have to have that budget discussion and CIP view first.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing on the roads is, I mean, we're probably gonna get Strawberry Lane is probably gonna come back.
I would expect they'd
And
petition
I would
again.
imagine a couple of the Oak Ridge, or is it gonna have to wait?
Maple Ridge
till-
is too young.
Maple Ridge,
Yeah, it's too young.
gotta wait another year.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Why, what is that?
We want a certain amount of time after the final coat goes down so that we know the road is at our standards.
Got it, okay.
I'm just thinking we should budget for any other new roads, potential new roads that might,
Yeah, the only one that, unless we get surprised with something, the only one on our radar is Strawberry Lane, which is,
right?
it's relatively short. We just kind of absorb those. Over time, we've picked up, over the last 15 years, I think we have 8 or 9% more roads than we did 15 years ago in terms of mileage, but we couldn't say, we need an extra $50 to do that. We just live with it typically.
I think the plan that's out there now, I mean, it's still a plan that John had worked up to move forward. We may want to consider paving a little bit longer strips than what we have. And I think the key ones were what? Poor Farm and Ledge Farm and Poor Farm.
Cooper Hill and
Cooper Hill.
Cooper
yeah.
Hill and Ledge Farm, we have ranked as top 2 priorities
Yeah,
right now.
because Poor Farm didn't have that much traffic on it in comparison of those
Right.
other roads.
Is Cooper Hill gonna need some engineering on the level of Lakeview? I mean, it's a pretty rough road.
It'll need a little bit, but it's a short stretch. I think it's just gonna need a lot of material to get it up out of the water. I think that's but we will need a little bit of engineering help. I mean, we don't even know what our, who's staffing this project next summer. We don't even know yet, so that'll tell us more about our engineering needs than anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, if you want to leave it as either when we come back to CIP or we come back, you're probably going to want to do it in the context of the budget. So the night we talk highway and the budget, I can let people know that you'll
Yeah.
be talking about it then. If you
Yeah.
want to leave it like that, we can.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do.
Okay. Okay. And that is all I have for you.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Dame School. Now, we just got this today, so I haven't had a chance to look through any of it. I don't know if you guys did.
I apologize for not getting that to you on Friday.
Yep. Do you want to give us the Reader's Digest version?
Yep, we talked last year about this prior to town meeting, or this year prior to town meeting.
Yep.
And you've talked with the Historical Society a couple times over the last couple of years. They have been trying to find a way to make that building accessible. The only way to in right now is up those front steps, really. We have got a design that puts a ramp on the back of the building, makes the rear door a little bit bigger so you can get through it. I had prioritized repainting it because everything from the cupola down needs it. We appropriated at town meeting in March, $20,000 to, we didn't know what the final collection of work was gonna be, but town appropriated $20,000 to work on the building. The Historical Society went to the state for a grant for some of that work. Leanne Gass did all that work, and kudos to her. She got us $6,200. We've identified just over 13,000 in work, so 13 minus the 6 leaves us with 7 that we'd like to spend on the whole package. We've got a contractor that can do them both. We wanted to get them all done together so we don't have to worry about getting the order of things right. We are gonna have to move a shed that's out back there and do a little bit of other prep work inside, but nothing too heinous. You have sketches and numbers in order to get through it's a state government grant, so you have to jump through a bunch of hurdles to get through governor and council on that, and that's what the first resolution there is. We think our selected contractor's probably not gonna be available until spring, so we wanted to encumber the money in case we need to use it next year instead of this year. But we think we can get it done, all done for a little over $7,000, which is much better than the 20 that
Yeah,
we
exactly.
guessed on. And I think that's it.
So there was some question when we talked about this before about whether or not, you know, things like adding the ramp would impact the historical significance of the building.
Yeah, and in getting ready for this grant, they learned that the building has lost its designation on the National Registry because of the move that it used to be over there. and-
Right where the front door of the police station
Right,
is.
so anyway, in that process, it lost its primary designation, so that doesn't really matter.
Okay, what about at the state level?
The state level, they're going back through the process again, and this is a state grant, so they've checked that box.
Okay.
You know, and this is cultural and historic, one of those grants, so.
Okay.
Before we swing any hammers, we'll make sure that we're good on that piece, but certainly painting you can do, but changing the door is the only thing that may.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments on this?
No, it looks pretty- numbers look pretty good to me.
Yep.
It's always good to get 50% match from the state.
Yeah,
Yeah, again, Leanne guessed, we did a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff for her, but she did most of the legwork on that, and
that's great.
rounded it up for us.
Anything? Nope. Okay, so there's two things for us, two actions for us here. Motion 1 and then motion 2, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to take a crack, please?
I move that this municipality shall enter into a contract with the state of New Hampshire, acting by and through the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, providing for the performance by this municipality of certain services as documented within the foregoing grant application, and that the official listed, Chris Sterndale, Town Administrator, on behalf of this municipality is authorized and directed to enter into said grant agreement with the state of New Hampshire, and that they are to take any and all such actions that may be deemed necessary, desirable, or appropriate in order to execute, seal, acknowledge, and deliver any and all documents, agreements, and other instruments on behalf of this municipality in order to accomplish the same.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion 2?
I'll make a motion that the select board hereby encumbers up to $7,164 of the 2017 appropriation for painting, repairs, and improvements to the Dame School.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Alrighty then. So, there's nothing else we need to do business-wise, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We're 10 minutes early. Are you guys expecting other people? Would you like us to wait, or?
No, we can go ahead, I think, if anybody else shows up, fine.
Okay, great, come on up then. He's a gentleman after all these years, huh?
Would you be even more of a gentleman and pass these out?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you for having us tonight. And just in case you don't know who we are, Gail and Chris Mills from Chapin Road.
She's Gail, I'm Chris.
Thank you for clarifying.
Let's leave them on the table and give them
We came here to talk to you tonight about the Nottingham Community Bill of Rights ordinance. that we are gonna be submitting to the town meeting, this spring. And this rights-based ordinance will prohibit the purchasing of land for the purpose of dumping toxic waste and/or water extraction. Barnstead had problems with that a few years ago, and they had to get an ordinance in quick to stop it. There have been a couple of other towns in Nottingham that have had, not Nottingham, New Hampshire, who've had a problem with this. Now, we sent you a copy of the complete ordinance in plain English, which I hope helped spelled out what the ordinance was. Excuse me, I've got an allergy or something. And then we gave you a version of the brochure,
Yeah.
just a general brochure.
Okay.
So, I realize that doesn't answer all your questions, but do you have any at this point?
Why don't you give us a little more background? You know, kind of give us the high level of some of the stuff that's covered in here, since we haven't had a chance to read it.
Okay. This, actually, it's gonna give us a right to sustainable water use, a right to clean air and water, and the right to exercise self-government. Chris, do you wanna read this, because my voice is going?
Sure. Basically, this came about, I should say, when we passed this water rights ordinance back in 2008, there were some towns that had passed similar type ordinances for various reasons. Since that time, there are now over 200 towns across the country that have passed rights-based ordinances for one reason or another. And so the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund has had the opportunity to defend a number of these rights-based ordinances. And throughout that experience, they have found ways to improve the kind of ordinance which we had in 2008, and made verbiage that was easier for them to defend.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized that there was the possibility, besides the water extraction for toxic waste dumping and things of that nature. And when we realized that we needed a reason or an ordinance, if you will, to reclaim some of the rights that we used to have, but which have been gradually eroded over the years. And we feel that a community should have the right to determine what goes on in its community, and that other corporations cannot just come in and say, we don't care what you want, we're doing this with your land. And that's the position of this, why it's called a Community Bill of Rights. So that's basically what it does for Nottingham. It gets you people, the select board, more power. As indicated in here.
May I add something to that?
Go ahead.
The other thing is, we are seeing that other towns are having issues with corporations coming in with buying property for toxic waste and sludge. And we felt it would be better to put something like this in place before we're threatened with it, because the last 10 years has really been tough, fighting off all the people who are coming in and trying to buy USA Spring. So this would be a fait accompli. It would have been done, and the town would be protected.
In the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, how successful have they been in trying to defend some of the different ordinances from different towns? If there's over 200 of them now, how many have they successfully defended?
To be honest with you, I don't know how many of them have actually been challenged in court.
Okay.
A number of communities like ours, when we used the rights-based ordinance of the Water Alliance that we passed in 2008 to go into the bankruptcy court and challenge people that wanted to buy the property or put up money for it, we were successful in doing that and didn't need to go to court in order to determine its value.
Right.
So I don't know how many have been actually challenged in court, I'm sorry.
Okay, no. Questions? Anyone have any questions?
Yeah,
Oops. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I've got one, I'm actually on page 2 here, and one of the paragraphs here says, we the people of Nottingham hereby declare that our current system of government is illegitimate and that we adopt this law to create a new system of local governance that recognizes our self-governing authority while securing and protecting our rights. So I understand where you're going with that. But how would you explain to the layman that is not as versed in the language of legislation, how would you explain to them that this is not necessarily a declaration of independence from the state or the nation? I mean, that might be alarming to some people at face value.
I think you'd jump in whenever you want
Go
to.
for it.
I think it's because we have lost a lot of our powers. The regulatory system has taken over. And according to our Constitution, the people in the town, the real people, not the corporations, have the right to decide what happens in their towns and what is legal and not legal. And so with the regulatory system moving in and making the decisions, that really is not what our towns were supposed to be built on.
Right, right. So I get that the whole purpose is to reassert our right to govern our home and our lands and our community the way as it was always done in the past. But what I'm saying is some people might read this as a challenge to the authority of the state.
Well, in a way, I think it is a challenge to the regulatory system.
See, the way I see it, and I know that these kind of ordinances had been questioned, that they've been declared as being illegal or unenforceable and so on. They did that in 2008. And the question arises, what do you mean by legal? And if you look at the dictionary definition of legal, it talks about the laws that have been passed by the state, the RSAs and so on, and the decisions which have been made by judges in courts of law or precedents. That this is the kind of law which 90% of the attorneys that work in any state work on. They talk of, that is 90%, probably more than 90% of their business. That is the regulatory law. That is the law which sets the regulations for the way we behave. Right now, under those laws, municipal governments do not have the right to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community because there have been decisions along the way, some of which have been manipulated by corporations, I'm quite sure. But those laws do exist. So to say that it's illegal is, it may be in the sense of the regulatory system, the regulatory laws, but an attorney doesn't have the right to say that's illegal. The only people that can do that is a judge, and that has to be a court case in order to say that. But beyond that regulatory system is the constitutional law, and that will override any of the laws if they are challenged, if they're considered to be improper. The fact that something is legal does not necessarily mean it is right. I won't say they're mutually exclusive terms, but there are some laws that are made, as you all well know. There have been laws on the books where one group of people can own another group of people. That was thrown out by an amendment to the Constitution, the 13th, I think it was, in 1865, that threw out slavery. We've had similar situations. Women were considered possessions, property, and could be handed down from the father to the bridegroom. Yes. And they had no rights to vote until the 19th Amendment. So laws that exist are not necessarily right, and the only way they can be changed is through the Constitution. And within this ordinance is quite a few references to constitutional, New Hampshire constitutional articles that do give us those rights. And we are trying to reclaim the selectmen's right to have control over the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Does that help?
It does, it does. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have some questions. So on page 3, the section 2, under the definitions, under D, you speak to the wastewater treatment sludge and sediment sludge. I'm just wondering about agricultural wastewater, if that's under that, because like we've got some dairy farmers in New Hampshire, in Nottingham, and so a lot of the dairy farms will have kind of a waste. It's like a pool, a waste pool, that they then use to spray onto the fields. I mean, that's not gonna impact them, is it? I think that.
No.
It does not restrict anybody's right to the freedom to do as they've done in their own.
Okay.
That's in the brochure. So if someone is spraying that on their own property, that's legal. You just can't go out and buy your neighbor patch of land someplace just for the purpose of dumping.
I just wonder, if we should make that clear in the document somehow, is just kind of thinking. The other question I have is on page 4, under enforcement, you call up some dollar numbers for violations. Was there rhyme or reason behind that, or under A, section A, section 5A?
I think that the purpose of that is to give you the Board of Selectmen, the specific authority to, impose fines on people who are violating this. It's giving you people more power than if you did not have that in there, and I would imagine there would be objections to you. I mean, if it's not stated in here that you can impose these fines, then where would you have the right in order to set those fines without going through the law courts and having a
Can we
judgment
increase
against
those fines?
Beg your pardon?
If we want to increase those fines, that's a slap in the hand.
Yeah, we could.
Is that something we can do, Chris, is establish fines like that?
Well, if you do it under, you do it under state law, there are lots of ways you can establish, you can ordain and set fines for all kinds of things.
Yep.
As I read this, this is a completely extra legal. It's outside of state law. There's no reference to any state statute in here, so, one way to look at this is as they've presented it as a more of a constitutional effort than a classic legal, back to the, legislative legal, effort. I don't think you would have the authority to, you only have the board and you, the town, only have the power that is given to you by the state constitution and the state legislature. If you accept the constitutional framework that we typically operate in, and I think what you're doing is kind of coming alongside that.
Saying that needs to change.
Yeah, so lacking a reference to or a justification in existing state law somewhere, I would advise that you not try and enforce a fine for something. But that's the constitutional question that this presents is very similar to the one that was presented by the existing rights-based ordinance as we get into USA Springs, where the board was faced with a choice of, do we want to defend this at X cost? It's untested. I don't know if it's been tested in New Hampshire yet.
No.
So unless something, I mean, there's probably tweaks to the constitutional methodology of this versus the 2008 version, right? Still untested. The 08 version's untested in New Hampshire. Right, so.
Yeah.
So the short answer is no. You cannot just impose a fine.
Well, how would that differ from, like, for example, Durham has their own local open container law, and there's a fine.
Oh, yeah, well, we have fines for things in our ordinance too. It's, there are, the legislation would say you can enact rules about X, Y, and Z, and you can impose these penalties up to and including a violation and a fine of X number of dollars. You see that scattered around state law, where the legislature gives the town the authority to set its own rules in these broad areas of law. The zoning ordinance has got penalties in it if you violate certain provisions. The selectmen have the authority to impose fines and penalties. All of that derives from specific state legislation.
So I assume that this is gonna be kind of the same process as we went through in 2008, that leading up to town meeting, you guys will be doing some education and information sessions. Are you also trying to, like, to Chris's point, are you also trying to attack this at the state level?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is a movement statewide with the New Hampshire Community Rights Network
Okay.
to pass, to get a constitutional amendment, yes.
Okay, great, okay.
And actually, the more towns that have bills of rights or rights-based ordinances, the better off we are as far as getting something like that into
Okay.
the Constitution.
And we do have some state reps who are signing on to this,
Okay,
to support it and to present it.
okay.
No, the way I'm reading it, this is just water and toxic waste, right?
Correct.
Then, I mean, I know a lot of communities are trying to stop several infrastructure projects, and they're trying to do similar things to this, so. I mean, I'm all for everything that's happened
Yeah,
with.
there are ordinances in New Hampshire, rights-based ordinances in towns that are affected by the Northern Pass, for example. There was movements to do similar things in that Kinder Morgan thing right along the Massachusetts border. And there was there have been also some other things. So there are things that are targeted for specific things, like ours is for the original 2008 one was just for water. But this Bill of Rights really opens up the whole field, that in the event that there is anything that affects the health, safety, and welfare of the community, then under this ordinance, we have a right to go after that and to protect that. So it's a little broader than just toxic waste dumping and water protection. It's more about our rights to have complete control over the safety and welfare of the community, health, safety, and welfare, okay?
Okay, so, oh, sorry, go ahead.
What is that law? It's, I keep forgetting the name of it, where the state is seeing itself as the parent, and
As the what?
state is the parent,
Oh, right.
and you know the one?
Yeah, it's called Dillon's Law.
Dillon's.
There was a Justice John Forrest Dillon in Ohio, I believe, who was a federal justice, and he made a ruling on a case that municipal governments are, the relationship between the state and the municipal government is that of the parent to a child.
Yeah.
And that means that if the state has not said you can, then you can't. And I think that has been adopted, that Dillon's rule has been adopted in something like 46 states, including New Hampshire.
Yeah.
That, coupled with a court decision back in 1819, which involved Dartmouth College and Dartmouth versus Woodworth, I think it was, they determined at that time that corporations, because they were chartered by the state, corporations had equal power with the state. That puts corporations up here with equal power with the state and municipal corporations down here as parents to a child to a parent. So that is one of the reasons why corporations can come into a community, buy a piece of land, and do whatever they can get permits for.
There's one thing some new people here might not know, and that is, we have been working with CELDF, and not only have they been working across the United States, helping states with this, but also in other countries. But one of the agreements we have with them is if someone should challenge us, they will come and represent us for free and defend the ordinance. We would have to pay for their travel and their housing and court fees, but they would not charge us hourly rates.
Okay, so there's no action on the behalf of the, select board at this point in time. I do appreciate you guys coming in and giving us, the heads up and understanding. I would expect that there'll be a lot of healthy debate at town meeting, as there was.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so bring your lunches, or
Yeah.
plan on buying your lunch.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thanks for coming in, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically, we just wanted to apprise you of the fact that we were doing this.
Yep.
We're going to be sending out these pamphlets to
Yeah.
every
I
community
appreciate
in
that.
town.
Yeah.
And, but we wanted you to know what was going on and not just be
Yep.
surprised by it.
Is
I
your
appreciate
intention to
that.
petition this onto the warrant?
Beg your pardon?
You're gonna petition this onto the warrant for town meeting, is that?
Yes,
We haven't
it'll
said
be a
that.
petition warrant article at town meeting. I know there were suggestions that we should go through the planning board, but this is not a land use ordinance, it's a rights-based ordinance.
Did you uncover, in getting ready for this, did you uncover anything in our zoning ordinance that was insufficient? I mean, because that we know is constitutional, we know how to defend it and enforce it. Is there anything we need to be looking at around these issues?
I think this gives, I haven't thoroughly remembered all 7 pages of this, but I do believe it gives the board more authority in the event that somebody applies for, as USA Springs did right back in 2001, they applied for the right to withdraw water, and they got that special exception. And I think this gives the board more opportunity to be able to deny it without too much of a hassle.
I think we'd have to look in to see if we have anything as far as what we don't allow, like we don't allow certain things. I think we need to go back to that and see if toxic waste is in there. I'm assuming it is, but who knows?
Kinda did too, but,
I-
yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I add just one thing?
Sure.
Look, I mentioned this is part of a statewide national movement of towns, taking back their rights. And actually, the town of Nottingham story with USA Springs is in a book called We the People, which is stories about different communities that have successfully taken these steps. So I don't know, we have extra copies if anybody wanna.
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions or wants anything, just email at us at millcg@gmail.com.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's in there, yep.
Thank you. Okay, folks, I need you guys to all sign these.
Oh,
Chris passed these along. I mentioned earlier.
I have mail for you, none of it, all that exciting, but flip through it. Mostly regulatory information, but. Ready to go non-public?
Yeah, yeah. So we have to make a motion to go into non-public, correct? All right. Motion to go into non-public?
Which, what letter?
I'm sorry, B and L.
I'll make a motion that we close the public session and enter non-public session as per RSA 91A:3, section 2B and 2, is that L or 9? 2L.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Brown, yes.
Eden, yes.
Anderson, yes.
Davis, yes.
Tony, yes.
Okay, we will have no further business when we come out of non-public, so we will adjourn the public meeting at that time.